Hey E39 source, this is Ryan Schultz with my February of 2000 E39 M5. I'm back again doing kind of a small, little, dumb, easy DIY fix that has been yet another small annoyance with this vehicle over the past several months. So I noticed driving the car over this summer with the window up, it had a ton of creaks and clicks and rattles and very Dodge Neon-esque sounds coming from my driver's seat, which I fairly quickly determined to be the seat trim, as I'm going to refer to it in this video as. It's the black, tan, gray, whatever color your interior is, trim that runs along the side of the seat. It has a couple points of attachment, a couple Torx bolts, a couple of plastic pop rivets, and the most common one to fail is actually back here. When that does break, the whole thing becomes very loose and then rattles around. So I've already taken the steps to change out the driver's side piece. We'll provide all the part numbers. They will be the black part numbers only. I'll try to post a link to the real OEM parts explosion so you can see other colors as well. But we're going to be replacing the button for the backrest, the button for the bottom cushion, the trim itself, a kit that comes with the little dummy inserts in case you don't have lumbar support, or the thigh extension in the seat, such as an M5 or 5 Series Sports seat would. I'm also replacing the seat rails, which are the rail trim. There's one here in the front, there's another one in the front, there's some under that, and there's two pieces in the back. ECS makes a kit that has all the part numbers you need, one for each seat. So we're going to be detailing those part numbers. Now the only difference between the front passenger and the front driver's seat actually comes down to the buttons. And I'm not 100% sure on this, but I do believe that the buttons themselves are different due to the fact that the memory seat function, which most US E39s have, I think that the settings for that memory seat function are stored within the button panel, the actual module that lives on the inside of this trim. So the pegs sticking out on the driver's side are kind of square, are kind of round, a round corrugated plastic. Versus, as we'll see in a moment, the pegs sticking out on the passenger side are indeed square. So the buttons themselves are different. They have different part numbers, and I will note that in the description of the video. This side, they're round, they're metal mostly, and if you press on them, they're like spring-loaded, and they're wrapped in this black, I don't know if it's plastic or rubberized something. So there are different buttons that go on each side. That's the only difference I've found so far. I have yet to change this piece. That's what we're going to be doing today. So first things first, we're going to move our seat all the way up. With your button on, that's fine. Just move the seat all the way up as high as it goes, both the front and the back portion of the seat. Then we're going to recline the backrest back quite a ways because we need to remove a T30 Torx bolt that's right in the crotch of the seat, as I'm going to call it. We're going to have to pull the seat belt out of the way and move some of the leather around, and its back lives back down in there. In fact, we can get a look at it right there. There's that T30. So removing the buttons is going to be our next step now that we've got the seat in a position where we can a little bit more easily work on it. Removing the buttons is something very fragile. If you just grab a screwdriver, stick it under there and pry, chances are you're going to break these little arms that stick out from the module. That would be a very expensive mistake. To correctly repair it, you now need to replace the entire electronics module. It would cost you several $100s. So please take the time and try to use the right tools to get those buttons off. They do simply pop off, but you need to pull out perpendicular to this surface. You need to pull out straight. You can't just grab a pry tool, even though this is a very good pry tool. You can't just stick it there and pop it. I went in from the top down as far as I could. I could feel it hit the output of that button, and then you can pry once you're all the way down there. And both of mine on both sides, so all 4 buttons popped off without damaging the studs at all. So with your buttons off, now we can move on to the next step. I think I'm correct in saying there are 5 points of attachment on each side. So point number 1 is going to be a T30 screw. You're going to need to take the leather and move it just a little bit. It's right there. Again, that's a Torx 30, so we need to remove that screw. Over here in the front, sorry for the lack of light, there is a little hole right there in the front of the seat. Another T30 lives in there, so we're going to back that out. Then, a little bit more fun, we get to reach in here, and it's right here. there's a piece of plastic that jets inward about 5 inches, and it's got a pop rivet on it. If you just get your finger on top of the whole piece of plastic and pull, I found that it comes out, or at least it did on the other side. Yeah, you'll feel it pop down. So that would make 3 points disconnected. Now there's another in the front pop rivet, and it's going to be down on the bottom somewhere. I'm going to get a light under here and I'll film it better. Same deal in the back. So a total of 3 pop rivets, 1 in the back, 1 underneath in the middle, 1 in the front, and a total of 2 Torx 30s, 1 here and 1 in the front in the little hole. So let's get all those disconnected. Looking at the front of the seat like this is your thigh bolster here. Down at the bottom, this is hard for me to see, right here in the center of that is a little plastic pop rivet. So we're going to use there goes my light, we're going to use a pop rivet tool, similar to the one with the red handle I showed you a moment ago, to go ahead and pry that out. There's one in the back as well. The one in the back is actually easier to find. It is sticking out from around that leather, right there. Again, I apologize for the lighting. It's difficult to see, but it's there. So we're just going to use that pry tool to pop it out. Once all the fastening points are disconnected, we can just pop the trim panel off the side of the seat. That reveals how the wiring works. So there's a few modules here in the back. The center module is where the buttons are going to pry off of. That's one we want to be very careful with, taking the buttons off. Then depending on how your car is optioned, we've got the switch to control the thigh extension. If you have that switch, obviously there's a wiring lead going to it. And then you have the lumbar support, which of course has a wiring lead as well. So there's going to be 3 points that we need to disconnect if you do own an M5 that has all 3 different switch boards. So the first of which, I'm going to tackle the little switch for the thigh extension. That's a real easy one to remove. We're just going to get a small screwdriver. A flat blade works fine. And I think we put it in the back. We pry. It's a typical BMW connector, and if I did that right, it should lift off. I think I need to go a little more, and I need some more hands. This one over here for the lumbar actually has a little trap door over it. It's got a tab that we press up. Again, I need more hands, and that would slide out the back like this. I'm replacing this piece. It's a bit of a support, and it covers the connector going to the lumbar switch. I'll get you a part number on that later. For now, push it aside. And with that open, we can see that it's simply a press fit connector that holds the wiring harness on there for that, which looks like that. It's rather small. Back to the switch. I'm going to try to pry that out a little more. You just get in between the side of it and pull. That opens the jaws. And then if I pull it hard enough, it should come off like that. Leaving the switch installed. If we want to remove it, we'll just push it out like that, and here would be the old switch. If you're not replacing that part, which I advise you don't unless you need to, put it in a dry safe location. We'll be installing it in our new panel in a few moments. And then the last one here, we're just going to release it. There's no need to remove it from the car to disconnect it. It's simply held into the actual seat panel that we're replacing with a few tabs. If we pull those tabs away from the module while simultaneously pulling the module out, it will disconnect itself. So I'm going to take the old piece here into some better lighting. You can see I popped out the switch for the thigh extension. The only piece that is still in here is going to be the lumbar support. And that's actually rather interesting to get out. Looking at this on the driver's side, when I did that a week ago, it actually took me a little bit to figure it out. Looks like it slides down in there on these grooves. If you can see, there's grooves in the plastic where that switch would slide in. Now, the way I ended up taking it out is probably not to spec. It's probably not the right way of doing it. I had 2 people, so I pried these apart as hard as I could. I don't care about breaking this old piece. I just want to salvage the switch. So I pried those apart quite hard and then had somebody else push on the button from the other side, and it popped off in my hand. I think that's about a $60 piece, so don't break that. Once you do pop it off, you'll be able to install it in the new one by just pushing it in. Pry it open a little bit, push it in, and it'll snap into place. With the side seat trim off the seat, we can move on to just replacing the rail covers if you are going to do that. You don't probably need to do that unless they are indeed broken. You can probably get away with cleaning them up now that you have access to that. I clean this car very well, but those are just parts I've never even seen before. I've never had these off before until now.
So I'm just going to go ahead and replace them. They're cheap parts. So with that off and out of the way, we can see that this immediately close to the door sill part is simply held on by, I believe it's another Torx 30 screw. So we'll just take that off, and then that plastic pries up on the outside. That will reveal that there's another trim covering in the back. It pops off, and there's going to be another one in the front. It also pops off. They only go on one way. They are very fragile pieces. You can see there's a very small amount of plastic connecting them together. So be careful with them. Line them up where you want, and then press them into place over the steel rails built into the floor, and they'll snap into place. Once the Torx 30 comes out for the large piece, this one here, it just pops right out. You can see that the part to the left there is easy to clean. That part's impossible to clean, so it looks like hell. Once that comes out, you're going to be left with, I'm going to refer to them as the shorties. You've got one that covers the rail here. You've got another one over here. To get the inside one off, this is true on both the driver and passenger side, you need to remove a T30 Torx bolt that looks like this. This bolt is not my best friend. It takes quite a while to deal with under here. You've got to put the seat all the way up and all the way back. Use only a T30 socket and only a 3/8" drive ratchet, and you're only going to be able to move the ratchet about 2 clicks at a time. So it takes quite a bit of ratcheting back and forth to get the bolt out, to then remove a piece that looks like this, which doesn't really even need to be replaced, but hell, I bought it, so I'm doing it. Take that off, and then you can get to the little shorty that looks like that. So once both shorties and the two longer ones, I'm referring to this now as the longer one, once those are removed from the front, we are ready to assemble the new panel. We could actually at this point just do the ones in the back too. Why not? That'll be easy. So we're going to move our seat all the way back up, which will reveal the two little short pieces in the rear, which just will pop off with the flat blade screwdriver and come off in your hands. These are very easy and will take a matter of seconds. The pieces in the back, the end like that, are kind of, they kind of come to a point. Both of them are like that. The ones in the front are just squared off at 90-degree angles, and when you take them off, the new ones will go on just where the old ones were. And again, there's not a huge need to replace these things, but they are relatively affordable. I did find out that one of mine was broken. There's the other one for the rear. Thank you, Kenneth. This is the inside piece towards the tunnel. That's the outside piece. So the pointed parts do go on the outside like that. But yeah, they're cheap pieces, so I might as well do it while I have the seat side trim apart. So now before we start to put things back together, I think I am going to take a shop towel in there, clean up some dust, maybe pull the vacuum out, clean up under the seat a little bit, and then we're going to start transferring the switches into the new panel, the dummy plates into the new panel, pop the module in, put it back together, and put our buttons on. Then we're going to be done. So this is absolutely the worst part of the job. Snapping on the front, the lower seat plastic rail covers, that is fairly simple. It's the part that move with the seat that is just not a good time for anybody involved. And it's not the one on the outside. That just, it kind of sandwiches over this side of the seat, it sandwiches over this side, and then there's that Torx 30 right here. The inside is the one that takes forever because the Torx 30 is down under the seat. I am referring to this piece of trim right here. Guys, don't even replace it. If yours isn't broken or missing and you don't care, don't replace it. But the bolt for it, the Torx 30, is way under there. I'm doing the best I can with camera and lighting, and it still sucks. I'm sorry. But it's a T30 that holds on this little short piece. Where's the old one? This is what it looks like. It sits in the car like this, and the Torx 30 lives down in that recessed hole. And with the seat being directly on top of it, you can put a ratchet on it, but then the ratchet only moves about this much. So you've got to move it 1,000 times for that bolt to unturn one revolution. And of course it's tight the whole way, so you can't just break it free and then turn the socket by hand. So the last hour or so has been devoted to that. But it's done. New seat rails, new plastic, all that's nice and clean. Same here on the outside. I have the rear rail covers to replace. Those take 2 seconds a piece. We're about to pop this in the new seat module, get the trim on, the whole reason I'm doing this job, put it back together, and we'll be done in a few minutes. Beginning assembly of the new part. So the panels actually come, the seat trim themselves actually come as a set of 2. The part number for the set of 2, obviously that's a front passenger and that's a front driver. In black, that part number is found right here. It's 52107058-008. That'll be both pieces. So that's the first part, obviously, we need to start with to build our new setup. Then there's this little cover support thing that covers the circular hole where if you have an M5, your
lumbar support switch goes. Again, you're going to pry these apart. It helps to have two people pry those apart, have somebody push the button from the center out, and it'll pop out. So we're going to install that in there. Then the support goes there. The part number for the passenger side on the support is 52108207406. The right side is a 405. Then we have a kit of blank inserts. Unfortunately, you are going to need to buy two, and you probably only need one or two pieces in here. That part number is 52108219227. Again, quantity 2. You're probably going to need some of these just to fill in the extra buttons. If you haven't got lumbar, you're going to stick the dummy panel circle in there. If you haven't got the thigh supports, you'll stick it in there. The only one I happen to need is that. M5s didn't come with seats that the backrest actuates on, so I'm just going to take one of these, pop it in there. I'm going to put this lumbar switch through the hole. We're going to put the support in, then we're ready to put this thing in the car. Too easy. So we've got the new piece here. This goes in a lot easier than it came out. I pried these apart slightly, pushed it down there, and there it clips in the grooves. We're good to go. Obviously, we cannot put on our support yet because we do need to plug in the wire. When we're about ready to install this, we're going to go ahead and plug the wire in, slide the support back in. It only goes one way, and it's going to clip when it's back in all the way. Then we'll be good to go with that. On the driver's side, I went ahead and installed the new buttons over here. The longer one, this one, and that's going to be for your rounded off corrugated pegs, for lack of better terms. The part number on that is, wow, we're very much out of focus. Let's do something I never do and stick something to my car. Part number 61318360465. Again, that's for your larger button. Smaller button comes in at 61318360285. That's only applicable to the driver's side with the memory seats and the rounded off pegs. If yours look like my passenger side does, and they're the black smooth ones, as we'll call them, those are going to be a different part number, which I'll provide in a moment. Lining up the new trim panel, we're just going to plug in our switch. On the passenger side, we're going to put the longer pegs towards the back of the seat. On the driver's side, they go towards the front. You can verify that by plugging in the cable. Pushing forward should move it out. Pushing backwards should move it back. So this is backwards, move the seat back. Towards the front of the car, moves towards the front of the car, very straightforward. Then we go ahead and plug in our power supply for the lumbar. We slide in our little support, that thing right there. We press our module in. Now we're ready to just transplant the little plastic pop rivets, line it back up, replace the two screws, move our seat back to where we want it, and thank God we're about done. So the worst part by far was just that seat rail up there, and then I ran into some complications when putting this piece back on. It's definitely a two-person job. You've got to have somebody push it towards the center of the car while you reinstall that Torx 30, the plastic pop rivet down there, the Torx 30 over here, the plastic pop rivet in the center, and the plastic pop rivet in the back. I ran into the issue when putting in my new switch here, all the part numbers included in the description below if I don't mention them in the video. I snapped that switch on, and when I would move it, it would stay. And like I would let go and it would continue adjusting the seat. Turned out I had not snapped the module all the way into the seat trim. So I got some needle nose and put them on the peg, pulled a little bit, and it clicked in, and now it's fine. Feels great, works perfectly. So you might run into that issue. Just be very thorough with everything. Every function works, including lumbar. A little quiet, but nice new trim now. Looks great. Nice new clips, nice new everything. In the back, putting the seat rails on. The seat rail trim is very straightforward. You're just gonna line it up and press it till it snaps. While you have the old ones off, it's probably a wise idea just to vacuum around a little bit and clean that up while you have them out. Clean up the carpet a little bit. So, needless to say, now it's quiet, looks great, feels great, done. Never have to mess with that again. It sucked. The passenger side was, for some reason, a lot more time consuming and a lot more difficult than the driver's side. I figured it would be the opposite, but I was wrong. It happens. So everything's back together now and it's perfect. So I'm gonna resume my memory seats and we're done. Thanks for watching. I hope you were able to follow this a little bit. I apologize for poor lighting and focusing throughout the video. This was a stressful DIY on my part and difficult to do in low light, as it's after 12 o'clock in the morning now. We're about 3 hours into this job. So any questions you have, please leave me a comment below this video, send me an email, ryan@e39source.com, and look forward to a future video. Thanks again for watching, guys. Good night.